A Plaguelands Media production.
Hey everyone, this is Hugh from Plaguelands Media bringing you another book review slash comic spoiler-filled extravaganza. And we are continuing with the death and return of Superman. This time we are looking at the next story arc in the kind of adventure, which is Funeral for a Friend. This ran for 8 issues. There is a 9th issue, which is kind of like the legacy of Superman, which shows a few of the lesser known characters and how the death has kind of affected them. But all in all, this is an absolutely fantastic follow-up to the Death of Superman story. So I'm just going to jump right into it. I hope you enjoy the next episode of So we're now moving, pardon me, into the Funeral for a Friend storyline. This ran for 8 issues, 9 if you include the legacy of Superman kind of one-shot. Sorry for my voice, still a bit scratchy. So Funeral for a Friend starts exactly where the Death of Superman left off, with Lois Lane cradling Superman's body in her arms. People are just in absolute disbelief. Doomsday's down. They're trying to make sure that he is not going to get back up again. So I believe his name is Dublix or something. Tries to scan his mind, but there's nothing there. Guardian comes, tries to give CPR to Superman, or, goes in for one final kiss, depending on how you want to read that. At the same time, Cat Grant is there, and she's telling Lois, snap the fuck out of it. You've got to do your job and report. The paramedics try to resuscitate Superman. Of course, not going to happen. This dude discovers Supergirl's body, but, doesn't know what the hell it is. And Lex Luthor kind of says, fuck off, and takes the alien creature away. At this point, Cadmus Labs want to take Superman's body. Guardian is like, hell no. Lois Lane is crying. Cat Grant is like, can you snap the fuck out of it and do your job, please? Which she ultimately does. Now we go to this character. This character, Jose, is the vigilante known as Gangbuster. He's watching the Death of Superman on TV, and the kid that he's babysitting changes the channel, so he does a little bit of child abuse here. So the video just got interrupted because we are having some severe weather conditions. So the city often sends me notifications, so I apologize for that. As I was saying, a little bit of child abuse here. The kid kind of runs off, and he decides, I need to get my old Gangbuster uniform out and go crazy. Someone on the news disparages Superman, which makes Gangbuster smash the television. Jonathan and Martha Kent watched the whole thing, and now they are kind of in mourning. Lex Luthor has taken Supergirl back to LexCorp, and she changes into her Supergirl body. She's like a shape-shifting alien thing. Still with bruises. They're trying to haul away Doomsday's body. Cadmus Labs kind of tries to take Superman's body again. Guardian is trying to stop him. And Turpin basically says, over my dead body, you're not getting it. So this issue is kind of all about the aftermath of the battle directly as it happens. It's Kind of like when you watch a movie sequel that happens directly after the first one. So they're all kind of trying to work out what to do with Superman's body. They're trying to actually revive him at this point by using some technology with some lasers. It doesn't work, unfortunately. And so everyone kind of goes into this state of shock now that there's going to be like a world without a Superman. At this point as well, Lois has to cover up the fact that Clark Kent is probably one of the victims of the Superman Doomsday fight. Maybe he was crushed in the rubble. We don't know. But she has to kind of keep Superman's identity a secret. Funeral for a Friend issue 2 has a fantastic cover, a kind of homage to Action Comics number 1. And we get like news articles, television reports on the death of Superman. And Cadmus Labs again trying to claim the bodies. Guardian doesn't want to have any part of this. At this point, Lex Luthor is kind of trying to get his greasy mitts on it. And we get some villains kind of showing up. Supergirl steps in, and it's just a whole big kind of mess. Lois is clearly devastated, but she kind of wants to get back to work. Perry White doesn't exactly know what to do either. Now, the big dilemma Lois has here is whether or not to call Jonathan and Martha Kent. She knows she has to. She knows she wants to. She can't bring herself to actually do it. Lana Lang decides to call to see how they are, to kind of let them know. And a lot of this is just how this death has affected people that knew Superman, that fought Superman, that were friends with Superman. So we get Lex Luthor basically smashing the body of Doomsday because he wanted to be the one to kill Superman, and Doomsday never gave him that chance. Again, Lois trying to call Jonathan and Martha Kent, not really knowing what to say or how to say it. We get a lot of Superman's villains that have been incarcerated, kind of talking about how good this is. And then we get a crime in progress. A cop tries to stop them. Supergirl comes down and basically ends up stopping the crime. It's a really good sequence in as much as while Superman's death has affected everyone, they still have a responsibility, even if it's street level crime. Supergirl hands them over to the authorities, kind of goes away, and we have Bibbo here, who kind of owns a bar/restaurant, and he was Superman's friend. And what we get in particular in this issue is Bibbo suffering from survivor's guilt, which I think is a really interesting way to end the issue. Now, Funeral for a Friend issue 3, you can see on the cover, We have Fire, Nightwing, Aquaman, Shazam, Wonder Woman, Supergirl, The Flash, Green Lantern, Guardian, Mr. Miracle, Batman and Robin, and of course Bibbo there. So this is where we start to see how the death of Superman has actually affected other heroes, especially when it comes to the memorial. Lex Luthor is going to build the shrine to Superman, so to speak, in Central Park. The Kents, however, can't go. People still don't know. Well, almost everyone doesn't know that Clark Kent and Superman are the same person. If the Kents show up to Superman's funeral, it's going to look very, very suspicious. So they can't actually go. And a lot of people think that, you know, Perry White thinks Lois should be there because she interviewed Superman all those years ago and blah, blah, blah. And Lois doesn't want to be there. And she's on the roof of the Daily Planet, just trying to deal. And then on the day of the funeral, you can see the procession of superheroes here. They pretty much got everyone that you could possibly think of in there, and Lois is there, you know, crying, and we've got like Green Lantern, Wonder Woman, a whole ton of heroes. We cut to Lobo. Lobo has just discovered that Superman has been killed, and he is fucking angry because he wanted to be the one to take him down. Lobo is not necessarily a villain, but he's not a good guy. He's like an intergalactic bounty hunter kind of thing. We have some kids who are crying and just trying to kind of deal with the situation. Some of them think Superman was a jerk. Others are sad because Superman helped them in some way. We have Batman. There's a guy who was going to basically set off a bomb at the funeral, and Batman captures him and is like, don't be a fuckwit. And then we just have like different characters that Superman affected in some way. We got this guy peddling Superman t-shirts and issues of the Daily Planet about the death of Superman. I'm pretty sure that he resembles one of the writers or artists at DC at the time. I'm just not entirely sure who. Bibbo comes up and threatens him and then basically says, you know what, I'll buy everything. I want everything. They see the memorial that Lex Luthor has put up. Some guys kind of accost Jimmy Olsen over his photographs, only to be stopped by Robin. Wonder Woman steps in, and the heroes kind of step in. It's not a grave threat. Like usually in a comic like this, you would have, the funeral of Superman, and suddenly all these supervillains attack and blah, blah, blah. But no, it's just street level stuff. Jonathan and Martha watch it on television. Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton turn up for some reason. This is probably before the Benghazi stuff. Not sure if it's before the Monica Lewinsky stuff, but there you have it. You can honestly say now, Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton were at Superman's funeral. Eventually, Lois calls, or tries to call, I should say, Jonathan and Martha. Jonathan and Martha reminisce about when they found him in the field, and they bury some of his stuff, but it's a hollow gesture. Ultimately, it doesn't make them feel any better. They put Superman's body in the casket, seal it away, and then finally Lois calls Jonathan and Martha, and they say, we will be there as soon as possible. Now, what I like about this is Jonathan and Martha knew how much Clark loved Lois. Lois isn't being cowardly in this instance by not calling Jonathan and Martha to see how they're doing about the death of their son. I am sure she feels a little guilty. But if you've ever lost someone, it's really hard to make those phone calls. I had to do it when my mother passed away, and I had to do it when my father passed away, and it's not freaking easy at all. This is a really realistic depiction of someone who knows they should reach out after the death of a person, but just doesn't know how, and doesn't know what words you say, and doesn't quite kind of grasp that perhaps the other people want to do the same thing for you. Very, very well written issue. I have to admit, I was really impressed with this. It also choked me up a little bit as well. So that was Funeral for a Friend issue 3. We move on to Funeral for a Friend issue 4. So the heroes are all kind of gathering. Of course, Shazam front and center, because why not? And they all kind of talk about what is going to happen now, basically. At the same time, the kid whose house was destroyed by Doomsday in the death of Superman is in Metropolis. He's taking a bus to get to Metropolis because he feels responsible for Superman's death and for the death of a lot of other people. Because if you remember, in the death of Superman, his house was burning. Superman was trying to stop Doomsday, and he called Superman for help, and Superman came down and rescued him, his mother, and his baby sister. And he feels that if he hadn't done that, Superman would have captured Doomsday, stopped him there, and would still be alive. For a character that, in the death of Superman, was just a fucking idiot, I love what the writers did with the process of his almost survivor's guilt. I think it is very elegantly done, very well written, and very believable, which immediately what stands out between Funeral for a Friend and the death of Superman is the writing. They didn't kind of cheapen what happened with Superman. They actually went to great lengths to make it feel like these characters are really grieving. And I think that's what a lot of people gloss over when they talk about Superman ruined the death of death in comics. I brought this up in the last video. I'm not going to harp on about it, but by seeing the way these characters cope with grief, with the death of, you know, arguably one of the world's most iconic superheroes, it gives the reader a chance to deal with grief. Not grief over the death of Superman, although I'm sure there were some kids that were fucking traumatized by Superman being killed. But we get to see how different people deal with grief, so that when we ourselves have to deal with grief, if we've never had to deal with grief before, we've got something to measure it to. Okay, I feel like this character. Okay, I feel like this character. I mean, I could be reading too much into it. That's just my opinion. But I think it was very well done. So, he comes to Metropolis because this woman is putting on a press conference saying that she is Superman's widow, that Superman has been living with her in secret for many, many years. And he wants to apologize to this woman. Lois Lane is like, you fucking lying whore. Fucking shut the fuck up. And storms off. Jimmy Olsen ends up meeting the kid. The kid explains to him why he's here. Jimmy Olsen's like, come on, let's go get a meal. The kid's like, I've got no money. Jimmy Olsen's like, that's fine. It's on me. And Jimmy Olsen befriends this kid. Lois, at the same time, goes back to her apartment. She can't handle everything, but Jonathan and Martha... Oh, she doesn't go back to her apartment, sorry. She goes back to Clark's apartment. And Jonathan and Martha are there to help her through the process. At this point, the superheroes go to the post office because at this time, I believe it's around Christmas, Superman would often come and read all the letters that were written to him to see if he could help. Guy Gardner thinks this is fucking stupid. Wonder Woman is like, no, your hair's fucking stupid. Let's just do this. And so they go start reading all these letters. They realize what sort of a burden Superman actually had at this point, that he would come here and understand that he couldn't help everyone. And then Lois finds a letter from a woman that Superman actually helped. It is the woman whose son is in Metropolis right now with the baby daughter, just letting Superman know that she's grateful that he saved their lives. And so Wonder Woman is like, we've got to help this woman. Now this is a little bit of a coincidence. She happens to find the letter from the woman that Superman saved in the death of Superman before he fought Doomsday and blah, blah, blah. But you know what? I don't care. It's comics and it works. Jimmy takes the kid to Bibbo's restaurant, where the kid kind of unleashes all the guilt and the anger and the hurt that he feels, and he blames himself for Superman's death. And they tell him, dude, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. It's a real Goodwill Hunting moment. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. Lana has come to, I believe that's Lana, or is that Cat Grant? Anyway, some blonde chick is there. And they're all talking about Clark. Wonder Woman turns up at the house of the kid's father, who, if you remember back in the death of Superman, he was like, Dad always has soda on the weekends. And finds him and just lets him know kind of what's happening with his ex-wife and his kids. Maxima, Guy Gardner are kind of off helping people. And the Justice League decide to rebuild the house while the kid goes to the statue of Superman and kind of confesses the way that he's feeling. I love the fact that you've got like two concurrent stories happening, panel by panel. I thought that was really well done. And ultimately, Wonder Woman brings the ex-husband who reconciles with his ex-wife, and the kid kind of unleashes or unloads at the memorial. And then we have this very sinister image where the head of Cadmus Labs is stealing Superman's body. One of the characters actually says, was there an explosion? Because they felt a tremor. We don't know what that was, but that was people going into Superman's tomb and stealing his body. Okay. Issue 5 starts with Lex Luthor finding out that there's been a breach in Superman's tomb. Lex Luthor, of course, built the tomb. So he obviously had sensors and stuff put up, and discovers kind of what is going on and sends Supergirl to go and investigate. At the same time, there are undercover police officers at the tomb. Supergirl goes in there, discovers the tunnel that has been breached. At the same time, Gangbuster appears at Superman's tomb and starts to kind of, go through his thought process about donning his vigilante persona once again. The cops come up and accost him and basically say, listen, dude, don't do what you're thinking of doing. At this point, Jonathan and Martha can hear Lois outside, kind of mourning for Superman. Jonathan goes out and asks her if she is okay. Lex Luthor has this red-headed masseuse, I guess, but he's more interested in what's going on with Supergirl and the tomb, and tells the masseuse to stop touching me and get the fuck out. Supergirl goes into the tomb. Cadmus Labs dude appears, gets into a confrontation with the police. The cops go into the tunnels. Turpin goes into... Sorry, that was another interruption. Turpin goes into the tunnels. At the same time, Gangbuster puts his kind of shit together and starts to do his vigilante stuff. However, the criminals say that he used excessive force and they are going to sue him. Supergirl goes down into deeper into the tunnels and meets the Underworlders. Turpin follows her. The two of them get into a fight with the Underworlders. You remember them from the very first issue of The Death of Superman. Basically, Turpin manages to take them out with grenades. They put a grenade in his pants for some reason, so Supergirl rips his pants off and then flies him to safety. It's a fucking weird sequence, and I don't quite know what the point of it was. At Cadmus Labs, they have Superman's body, and they are going to start testing. I believe they want to make clones, is the whole kind of Cadmus Labs thing. Funeral for a Friend, issue 6. Who is buried in Superman's tomb? Guardian is in Metropolis. He is fighting bad guys left, right, and center. At the same time, Lex Luthor is kind of reminiscing on how he became the cloned body, consciousness, redhead, Aussie talking, flaming glah version of fucking Lex Luthor. Guardian goes to Cadmus Labs via like this rail car. Lex Luthor and Supergirl meet up, and Supergirl lets him know that there was another tunnel. Maybe if we follow that tunnel, we might find what happened in the tomb. Guardian discovers that Cadmus has Superman's body, and he is fucking pissed. The Cadmus guys are like, hey, this is what we're going to do with his body. We're going to clone people like we did with you, and we're going to have an army of Superman that can protect Metropolis. And Guardian's like, it's not going to work. They're like, yes, it is. He's like, no, it's not. And so Supergirl ends up following the other passage, but there is a break and a flood, and river water comes kind of crashing in. At this point, the Kents are heading back to Smallville. Lois doesn't want them to go. They wonder if they should go. They end up going. Supergirl manages to save everyone from the river that flooded in, and now we have these fucking loony patoonies, a cult of people that worship Superman, coming to his memorial, his tomb, and just being Joey Jojo Jr. wackadoos right here. Lois and Lana have a moment, and basically this is quite a touching scene and an end to the issue as Lois shows them off to the airport. This moves us into the Legacy of Superman. Now, this is technically not part of the Funeral for a Friend storyline, but it does show you the impact that Superman's death had on a number of characters. So we start with Guardian. Guardian's in Cadmus Labs. We have these... Okay, this I don't get. Okay, I'm just going to be completely honest with you. These are... They're called like the Newsmen or the Newsboys or some shit. And they're like clones of the original Newsmen. But they're all dressed like Boy Scouts. It's fucking weird. It's a Cadmus Labs thing, and I just don't understand it. But they play a huge part in this. So Guardian is trying to protect Superman. They've downloaded what they believe is Superman's DNA, and Guardian doesn't want Cadmus to get a hold of it. The Newsboys don't want it either, but Cadmus has created Auron. Now, Auron is basically a clone of Guardian. Guardian is a clone himself. But Auron has, speed and strength, and his body's plated in like this metal alloy. And so Cadmus says, basically get that disc back. So it's Auron fighting and chasing Guardian and the boys that have the disc. And ultimately, the kids convince him of who he was, and he thanks them for it. He puts the disc in his backpack, and he flies away and says to Guardian, I will keep this safe. I know what I have to do. And he ultimately goes from being the villain of this little short story to a hero. Next, we move into this story. This woman gets robbed. The police can't do anything about it, but she has another persona inside her. I mean, I like her nightwear. Very, very nice there. She has this another persona inside of her, and the persona says, let me take over, and she becomes the Thorn. I've never heard of this character. She reminds me a lot of Poison Ivy, but she doesn't have like plant-based powers and stuff. She's just like a vigilante chick called the Thorn. Never heard of her. I've never seen her in any previous comics, and I haven't seen her in any comics since. So I'd have to do a little bit of research to work out exactly who she is. So the Thorn goes on a rampage, fighting all the bad guys and the fences, and ultimately getting her other persona's VCR back. I believe that was like, or DVD player or whatever. But what's interesting is at the end of this, it says, if you want to see more of this amazing young woman who is really two, write to Rose and the Thorn. So this is a lot like the Jason Todd death thing. It's basically DC going, if you want to see more of this character, let us know and we'll show more of the character. I've never seen a comic fucking do that. It's weird. I really like the character of like Rose, and she becomes the Thorn. I would have to look into whether or not she got more issues, but that was that storyline. Then we have Gangbuster. Gangbuster basically does his thing, beating the shit out of everyone, and he is ultimately confronted by a detective, and the detective says, listen, you've got to fucking stop doing this. These people are going to find out who you are, and they are going to sue you for civil damages because you're using excessive force. Here's a bus ticket. Get the fuck out of the city. That's the whole story. I like it. It was short. It was fun. And really quite poignant at the end, where the cop is like, I'm not going to arrest you. I kind of agree with what you're doing, but you've just got to be careful. Like, get the fuck out of here. I thought that was cool. Okay, funeral pyres. We've got a woman that works for Lex Luthor, and her younger brother is a superhero called Sinbad. I've never heard of that character before. During like the workday, some guys bust in. One of them reveals his face and ends up shooting this woman's secretary. And so Sinbad, Davood, I believe his name is, goes to hunt them down. It turns out that they got the weapons from Lex Luthor. Lex Luthor kind of set them up. And yeah, that's all there is about that. Finally, we have this. This is a really interesting story. This is about the Linear Men. And these are like a superhero team that are outside of time. And when one of them realizes that Superman has died, he wants to go back in time to prevent the death of Superman. And the other Linear Men say, is that our right to do that? You effectively want to make Superman immortal. We shouldn't do that. What right do we have? But he goes back in time anyway, and it's a test. So it's Wave Rider witnessing firsthand the death of Superman and deciding ultimately it's not my place to step in and stop this. This has to kind of continue. And so he lets Superman die. And his counterpart on the team says you passed the test. The Linear Men were friends of Superman. He befriended them in an earlier issue, but I cannot tell you which one. Again, this is early 90s. I've never heard of the Linear Men before this or since, but I'm very interested in reading up about them because they remind me a lot of like Legends of Tomorrow, the DC television show. So, okay. Funeral for a Friend number 7 with quite a chilling cover. We have Martha running saying, John, and then John face down in what's either hay or horse manure. So there you go. Lois Lane is having nightmares about Superman. She can't kind of get over it. Jonathan and Martha arrive back home to the Kent farm. Jonathan is reminiscing about when Clark was a boy. Martha kind of finds him in the barn thinking about it. Guardian is still being protective of Superman's body. Like the newsmen realize that that Superman is still at Cadmus Labs. Lois gets a cab. The cab driver recognizes her. Jonathan and Martha are talking, Jonathan is thinking about a young Clark and kind of all the good memories that they had together. The underworlders, the good underworlders, not the bad ones, are dealing with the fallout of the flood that flooded the tunnels in the previous issue. And two of them climb into the mouth of a giant frog. Don't have a fucking clue what the hell is going on here, but you're looking at it. They climb into the mouth of a giant frog, and then the frog can talk, and the frog swims away. This is more ridiculous than Thor frog. I'm just saying. So Guardian is still kind of doing his thing. Lois is still trying to deal, still trying to cope. Batman has a moment where he talks with Alfred because Superman had actually given him the means to kill him if it ever came to that. And Batman was like, why are you giving me this? And Clark is like, you're the only person I trust with this. Which goes a long way to really showing you the relationship Batman and Superman had. Now, my one huge criticism with Funeral for a Friend is that while you do get a lot of, Lois Lane, Jonathan and Martha, blah, 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 Bibbo and Jimmy Olsen and Perry White, you don't get enough Batman kind of stuff, because Batman and Superman would always team up in like World's Finest. There was the fantastic Batman and Superman series back in the day that started with the Public Enemies storyline, where President Luthor took a bounty out on them. It was adapted into a phenomenal animated film. Batman is grieving too at this point, and because their relationship was so strong, I would have liked to have seen more of that, but it is what it is, and it's a minor quibble, and once again, it's just my opinion, so you either agree with it or you don't. Lois goes to Superman's memorial, sees all the junior wackadoos, and she's found by Charlie, who comes out of the mouth of the giant frog, and Charlie tells her, we know who caused the explosion and the theft of Superman's body. It was Cadmus Labs. So right now, Lois has the scoop. She knows what's going on. Jonathan is still trying to deal with the death of his son. Now, these pages actually remind me a lot of the Jonathan Kent from Smallville, in that the Smallville Jonathan Kent was constantly trying to put his son first and constantly giving Clark advice, even when Clark didn't want to hear it. That is very prevalent in even the first episode, where Clark saves Lex Luthor's life and Lex Luthor gives him a truck, and Jonathan is like, you can't keep it. And Clark says, why? I saved a man's life. And Jonathan is like, so you deserve to be rewarded for that. Watching Jonathan Kent kind of go through these memories, very, very well done. Especially for people who didn't grow up with the early days of Superman, or who didn't read any of the Superman reboot series or anything like that. It's really nice to see. Really nice to see. Lois Lane, dressed weird, goes in the giant frog to Cadmus Labs to see if they can get Superman's body back. They ultimately come across Superman's body, Lois flips the fuck out, but realizes that they can't actually take it with them. So she basically just kind of leaves it there, but then starts writing a story about how Cadmus Labs have stolen Superman's body. At the same time, Jonathan has read that Superman's tomb is empty in the newspaper. He goes to the site of the shuttle crash where they initially found Superman. And as he and Martha are talking, Jonathan has a heart attack. Let me just compose myself for 1 second because I don't know. I don't know what it is about these fucking issues, but they choke me up for some reason. And it's a fucking comic book that follows the death of Superman and now Superman's funeral from 1992, 1993. Still chokes me up reading this shit. Like, that's good fucking writing, or, you know, I'm a little fucking pussy boy. Either way, works for me. Funeral for a Friend, Part 8. The end. Lex Luthor is showing off his enormous man nipples and having a kind of like a martial arts lesson. At the same time, he is reminiscing about the fact that Superman is dead, and how his anger towards Superman has driven him in everything he fucking does. These 2 pages alone, if I wish it was bald Lex Luthor, but red-headed, flamin' glayu drongo Lex Luthor is just as fine. But these 2 pages give you such an amazing insight into how Lex is feeling over the death of Superman. We don't just grieve for the people we care about. A lot of the time, you can grieve for your enemies as well. And that is so important in this issue. He loses his concentration, and the martial artist that he's fighting manages to knock him to the floor. He's about to lose his temper because old Lex Luthor would never have let that happen, and anyone that did kick him like that would be fucking executed. But Supergirl and Lois Lane come in and kind of stop him from retaliating, and he kind of gets it in his head and realizes what he's done. Or what he was about to do, I should say. Lois is there to give Lex a copy of the story that she is going to write. She wants him to read it first. And he discovers that Cadmus Labs have stolen Superman's body. And to Lex, that is fucking unacceptable. Lois still believes that this is Lex Luthor's son, pardon me, and a good version of Lex. So she has given him this story in advance because she knows he can do something about it. Jonathan is rushed to Smallville Hospital. His doctor comes, and his doctor is like, you've got to fight this. And while Jonathan is unconscious, he starts again reminiscing about Clark. He's fixing up an old truck with Clark. Clark is like, this old bucket of bolts. You know, Pete Ross's family has a new truck. Why? It's embarrassing being seen like driving around in this truck with you. And then they have a little heart-to-heart again. Smallville did a very similar thing in the first episode, which I thought was really cool. And then Jonathan is just like seeing images of his son. At the same time, Jimmy Olsen has taken his photos to a magazine that want to do a retrospective on Superman. He doesn't know whether or not he should give them his photographs. They explain to him that it's not going to be exploitative. It's going to be very poignant. You can pick the cover art. And he picks the photograph of Superman's torn cape. The martial artist that kicked Lex Luthor, her and her friends are going out for drinks. She's getting ready. She says, I'll meet you there. I'll buy the first round. And when she turns around, someone is in the locker room with her. And they basically assault her and murder her. Lois is dreaming about Clark. But in actual fact, she's with Supergirl, headed to Cadmus Labs. And Supergirl is like, listen, if you're going to fade in and out like that, you're no good to me. I need you focused. I'm just going to leave you here. She gets accosted by some people on bikes. These are people that fucking hate Cadmus Labs, realize who she is, and want to help her get in and get Superman's body back. They get into Cadmus Labs, and they find Supergirl has his body wrapped up in his cape. At the same time, they're trying to resuscitate Jonathan, but nothing is working. And Jonathan is thinking about all the times that Clark, as Superman, has saved people. They get back to the memorial. They put the body back in the coffin. Lex Luthor says, can I have a minute alone? And then he starts gloating. I knew I would be the one to bury you. And guess what? I killed that woman. And I've put enough evidence to blame it on one of the LexCorp janitors who is an ex-con. No one will ever pin it on me. You can't do shit. I'm Lex Luthor. I fucking won. That is some dark, dark shit. As he's smashing his hand on the coffin, Jonathan starts to flatline. And Funeral for a Friend ends with Martha standing over Jonathan's hospital bed as we see him just flatlining. And that was the end of Funeral for a Friend, the second story arc in the death and return of Superman. That is some fucking dark shit. And that's where we're going to end this video today. So, my overall thoughts on this 8/9 issue storyline. It was good. It was hard to read in places. They actually dealt with the grieving process very well for a comic book. I think that this is an important book in the, or story arc, I should say, in the Superman storyline. They didn't trivialize it. They didn't make it stupid. There were some silly moments, don't get me wrong, but overall, I think they did a phenomenal job with what could very well have been a boring storyline. Now, 8 issues. Did they drag it out too long? I don't think so. I think they had a lot to work with, and I think the writers managed to spread it out just enough that at no point did it start to feel boring or convoluted. Again, just my opinion. So we are going to end it there, and we will pick up with the next story arc, or maybe the next issue, because I believe the next issue is the Man of Steel fights for his life back from the dead. But if you enjoyed the video, like, subscribe, leave a comment, hit the notification button so that when I upload videos, it'll go ding on your phone, and perhaps, you might get a little excited. But until then, stay safe. Follow us on all the cool shit you're going to see at the ending. But most importantly, as Lex Luthor would say, read a fucking book, you flaming gladrongos. See you in the next one.